The city lights of Charleston flickered in the polished glass doors of the Solstice Grand. My fingers tightened around the hotel keycard, still warm from my palm. It was embossed with the golden emblem I had designed a decade ago, a rising sun cradled by ocean waves. And yet, at that very entrance, my sister Laurel stood like a velvet rope I hadn't paid enough to cross. "Kasira," she said, dragging out my name like it left a bitter taste. Her body angled sideways, an almost imperceptible block between me and the revolving doors. "I didn't think you'd actually show up. Thought you'd be busy. Folding napkins or whatever it is you do now." She adjusted the strap of her clutch, a patent leather imitation of a bag I'd seen in Milan last spring. The stitching was slightly off, the zipper crooked, but she wore it like a badge of status. "Dad's birthday isn't a walk-in kind of event," she added. "There's a dress code, a guest list, and an expectation of discretion." Before I could respond, the glass reflected another figure approaching. My mother Diane, draped in icy blue silk, and judgment appeared at Laurel's shoulder. Her eyes skimmed over me the way one scans for a flaw in a mirror quiet surgical practice. "We really hoped you'd understand," she said, offering a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "This isn't the time for tension or surprises. It's Martin's night." I smiled back. "I brought a gift." Laurel gave a theatrical sigh, rolling her eyes. A scented candle, a gift card to Olive Garden. I reached into my clutch and tapped the envelope inside without pulling it out. Something more permanent. Mom narrowed her eyes. "Look, sweetheart, it's not about the gift. It's about presentation. Status. We've worked hard to make sure tonight reflects well on the family. Everyone important will be here, the Penbrooks, the Crestwells, Mr. Durant from First National. You understand?" Yes, I understood. I understood perfectly. They'd spent years shaping their version of family into something polished, palatable, and exclusive. My departure from the family accounting firm had made me the stain on that carefully starched white collar, and now they feared I'd show up and ruin their illusion of unity and wealth. "I'm not here to cause a scene," I said softly. "But your presence would be a scene," Laurel snapped. "What do you expect us to do, introduce you as the sister who left to wait tables?" I nearly laughed. If only they knew. Instead, I said nothing. I watched the marble floors inside sparkle under chandeliers I'd chosen. I watched a bellhop escort guests to elevators I'd approved. I listened to a jazz trio tuning their instruments in the atrium, a musical partnership I'd negotiated after one too many dull lobby playlists. Everything they were trying to keep me from was already mine. Diane reached for my wrist gently. "Please, Kasira, don't embarrass yourself." She meant don't embarrass them. The keycard in my hand pulsed like a second heartbeat. I could end this entire charade in one sentence. But I didn't. Not yet. Sometimes silence sharpens truth better than any words. "I understand," I said finally. They both relaxed, misreading me again. And I stepped back, giving them what they thought was victory, even as I stared up at the hotel's name in shining brass letters, Solstice Grand. The name they'd erased me from. The building they thought I had no place in. The empire they didn't know I'd built. From the sidewalk, I watched a valet open the door for a man I recognized, Judge Albright, whose wife had just renewed their resort membership last week. I tucked the keycard into my clutch and walked calmly to the corner, letting the wind carry the scent of gardenia and wood smoke from the courtyard fires. I wouldn't force my way in. I'd just wait for them to realize they'd slammed a door shut on its owner. 10 years ago, I stood in the conference room of Vaughn and Associates, holding a printed resignation letter and shaking like a child about to speak out of turn. The office still smelled like dry ink and burned coffee. Laurel sat in the corner tapping on her tablet like I didn't exist. My father stood at the head of the polished oak table, arms folded across his chest, waiting for me to back down. "I'm leaving," I said, voice small but steady. "I've been accepted into the hospitality management program at Penn." He blinked once. "You mean to wait tables? I mean to run hotels," I replied. "Own them." His laughter was sharp. "Kasira, this family built something solid, something respectable. And you want to go fold towels and ask strangers if they want extra pillows? I remember Laurel's snicker the way she didn't even look up from her tablet. Don't forget she gets to plan wedding brunches and clean up champagne vomit. Sounds glamorous. My father's expression turned hard. If you walk out of here, you walk out for good. There won't be a job waiting when it falls apart. There won't be bailouts. I'm not asking for one, I said. You're not thinking clearly, he shot back. You're acting like some glorified waitress with a savior complex. I held his gaze. Then let me save myself. That was the last time I stepped into that office. They removed my photo from the company website by the end of the week. My name vanished from the family newsletter by that Christmas. In place of celebration, I got silence. In place of support, I got absence. And in that absence, I built something they couldn't see. I started small entry-level in a boutique hotel in Philadelphia, working the front desk, the linens, the breakfast bar. I learned the rhythms of hospitality not from textbooks but from double shifts and mop buckets. While they played dress-up in financial prestige, I was learning how to manage people-read margins, negotiate vendor contracts, and spot opportunity where others saw risk. The first hotel I bought was on the verge of bankruptcy. No one saw value in it, but I did. I stripped the wallpaper myself, slept in one of the guest rooms while the renovations happened around me, reopened it 8 months later under the name Solstice Inn. Within a year, it was turning a profit. Within 3, it was a brand. Now, it's an empire. And still, they think I manage a brunch cafe. A car horn jolted me back to the present. A stretch limousine pulled up in front of the Solstice Grand. Out stepped Laurel smirking, waving to someone inside like a pageant queen, probably soaking in the attention she thought belonged to her. I stayed in the shadows. Let her soak it in. Soon she'd find out whose spotlight she was standing in. Laurel stepped back outside just as the valet closed the limousine door. She spotted me immediately, narrowed her eyes, and tossed her freshly curled hair over one shoulder like she was preparing for a photo shoot. Still here, she said, her voice tight with disbelief. I thought you got the message. I offered a small smile. I didn't realize you were the one sending them. She gave a scoff and gestured to the gold pendant resting just above her collarbone. Anyway, I don't expect you to understand, but some of us have actual careers to protect. I made junior partner last week. Dad was thrilled. We even celebrated here in the Sapphire Lounge. That would have been the night my head of marketing sent me a note about unauthorized press photos being taken in one of our lounges. Laurel's name had been on the internal report. I hadn't followed up. Let them have their moment. Congratulations, I said. I hear the firm finally signed their lease. She blinked. How do you, small town? I replied. It wasn't. But the building they were leasing belonged to one of my real estate holdings my team had flagged their application for missing income documentation. I approved it anyway. Diane emerged next, waving to a guest who passed by in a blur of perfume and heels. She turned to me and frowned. That's what you're wearing? She asked, gesturing vaguely to my black dress. It's subdued. I prefer simple. She leaned closer. Kassira, this is the Solstice Grand. Elegance matters, not restraint. I traced the seam of the sleeve with my finger. It's custom. Julian Renee, from the unreleased fall line. Diane froze. Renee doesn't release until next month. I know. I was at the preview in Paris. Her mouth opened, then closed. No retort came. It wasn't about the dress. Not really. It never was. It was the idea that I might still be standing outside the frame they painted for me, that I hadn't faded into the life they assigned me, a cautionary tale of rebellion and regret. You always did have expensive taste, Laurel muttered, even when you couldn't afford it. I looked past her into the lobby. A group of suited men laughed with the front desk concierge, 3 of them representing a bank we'd been quietly negotiating to acquire. I learned to invest in quality, I said. It pays off in the long run. Diane exhaled. Just go home, Kassira. Honestly, you'll feel better. I almost did. I almost turned away. For a moment, I wanted to hand over the envelope and leave without another word, let them live inside their illusion. But something inside me refused. Not pride, Not vengeance. Something quieter, firmer. I stayed where I was, back straight, the keycard still tucked inside my clutch like a promise waiting to be opened. Let them keep watching. I hadn't spoken yet. Laurel checked the time on her phone, then glanced toward the entrance like she was trying to decide if I was worth another minute. "You really don't get it, do you?" she said finally. "The VIP floor is reserved. It's for family and distinguished guests." I raised an eyebrow. "And I'm neither." She smiled sweetly. "You left the family, remember? And as for guests, let's just say the room's full of people who matter." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She'd handed me the script. I was just waiting for the right moment to flip it. "We've got the Whitmores coming," she added, ticking them off her fingers. "The Crestwells, Judge Albright. Oh, and the Donovans, they just closed a big property deal." I nodded like I hadn't already seen every name on her mental guest list. The Whitmores leased 3 floors in my Midtown tower. The Crestwells had just signed an annual contract with our Aspen retreat. Judge Albright's foundation banquet was held at one of my hotels last month at a heavily discounted rate he still hadn't paid for. And the Donovans, I was their silent investor. "I see," I said calmly. "Quite the guest list." Diane stepped in, her tone clipped. "This isn't personal, Kassira. We just can't risk drawing attention tonight. Your father deserves something elegant, without complications." I looked up at the hotel. Its sweeping windows reflected the golden hour light like fire wrapped in glass. I remembered selecting those panes after the contractor tried to sell us a cheaper version. I remembered standing in this very spot the night we opened, watching guests arrive in black ties and velvet gowns, never once thinking my own family would be the ones trying to shut me out. Laurel crossed her arms. "You wouldn't even recognize the VIP floor. It's all hand-picked design, custom chandeliers, imported marble curated art pieces. It's not exactly your style." I fought the laugh rising in my throat. I'd personally approved every detail she just listed. The chandeliers came from a workshop in Prague I'd visited in person. The marble mined from the same quarry I used for the Tokyo resort. The art commissioned by a local painter I'd mentored through our small business incubator program. She was describing my work like it belonged to someone else. But I let her keep going. I let them both believe they were protecting something I couldn't possibly understand. And while they stood there clinging to their borrowed status, I quietly pulled the keycard from my clutch and ran my thumb across the gold emblem. It was time. The glass doors of the Solstice Grand parted with a whisper, and out stepped Donovan, tall, composed, and in his signature charcoal suit. He scanned the scene like a man trained for crises, then locked eyes with me. "Madam CEO," he said, voice calm but clear enough to echo across the entrance. "Your table is ready. Chef Langston is waiting for your approval on the tasting menu." Laurel blinked. Diane's fingers twitched around her clutch. Donovan stepped closer, nodding respectfully. "Apologies for the delay. We were finalizing security for the VIP floor." The shift was immediate. The doorman straightened. The concierge inside froze, then whispered something into her mic. The bellhop by the elevator turned his head quickly, recognizing me. Guests paused mid-conversation as they caught the title. A few stole glances. Others squinted, trying to place me. One man, Mr. Whitmore himself, actually did a double take. My mother turned to me, the color drained from her face. "Kassira," she murmured, "what is this? I believe you mentioned the VIP floor," I said softly, stepping forward. "I'd like to go up." Laurel recovered enough to scoff. "This is a joke." Donovan didn't flinch. "Miss Vaughn is the founder and CEO of Solstice Lux Hospitality. She owns the Solstice Grand as well as all affiliated resorts, hotels, and restaurant groups under the Solstice brand." Gasps. Real ones. Not polite party reactions, actual startled gasps. "Which includes, Donovan added the office building your firm just leased Ms. Vaughn, and the Charleston properties Mr. Whitmore's team manages." Laurel's mouth fell open. Diane stepped back, her heel slipping slightly on the curb. I turned to them both. "Shall we? I hear the view from the top floor is worth seeing." Then I stepped forward past their silence into the lobby I had built. The marble under my heels was smooth, cool, familiar. My staff greeted me with nods, soft smiles, and a touch of awe. Rachel at the front desk spoke gently into her earpiece. "She's here. Elevators are ready." I walked to the center of the atrium, the chandelier above catching firelight from the lobby sconces. My family lingered behind me, unmoving, but the doors were already open, and this time I wasn't waiting for permission to walk through them. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing the Solstice Grand's private lounge. The room fell silent the moment I stepped inside. Dozens of carefully curated guests turned their heads in unison. Waitstaff froze mid-pour. Soft jazz stuttered to a halt, as if even the music had recognized the shift in power. My father stood near the head table drink, in hand-mouth slightly ajar. He didn't move. My mother gripped her pearl necklace like it was a rosary, her eyes scanning me from head to toe, as if searching for an explanation she could live with. I kept walking. Kesaira Martin Vaughn said at last, stunned. "What are you doing here? I believe this is your birthday?" I replied gently. "I came to offer my gift." Mr. Kwan from Crest Point Bank stepped forward, interrupting. "Miss Vaughn, I had no idea you were connected to the Vaughn family. We've been trying to reach your office for weeks regarding our expansion loan." Before I could respond, Judge Albright appeared beside him. "Kesaira Vaughn," he said with a chuckle. "Now everything makes sense. The woman behind those property acquisitions. I should have known it was someone with Charleston roots. The Blackwells were next." "Your team rejected our membership application," Mrs. Blackwell murmured, suddenly deferential. "We'd love a chance to reapply directly." I glanced back toward the elevator. Diane stood at the threshold, plastering on a smile, her voice lifting for the guests nearby. "We've always been proud of our daughter. Of course we supported her journey. It's just, well, she's always been independent." Laurel was behind her, half shielded by the door, staring at the marble floor like it had betrayed her. I turned back to the guests. "Please enjoy the evening. Everything has been arranged. My staff is here to ensure you're comfortable." "Kesaira," my father said again, quieter this time. "I didn't know." "No," I replied. "You didn't." He looked smaller now. Not just surprised, but fragile. The same man who once told me no daughter of his would serve tables. Now, surrounded by the very people who once dismissed me, each suddenly eager to attach their name to mine. I made my way toward the table and gently placed the envelope beside his plate. He didn't reach for it. Behind me, I heard my mother trying to explain me to the Blackwells as if I were a rediscovered heirloom. I let her, but I took my seat at the head of the table. Not because they finally invited me, but because I had always belonged there. I found him alone on the terrace, hands resting on the stone railing, his eyes fixed on the Charleston skyline like it might offer answers he couldn't find in the room behind us. He didn't turn when I stepped beside him, just sighed. "You've built quite a kingdom." I nodded. "Yes, I was wrong about you." His voice cracked slightly. So terribly wrong. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The night air was soft, salt-tinged. Far below, the city pulsed with life, restaurants, streetcars, laughter echoing off brick. "I never needed you to believe in me," I said. "I just wanted you to see me." He lowered his head. I didn't know how. "No," I said, "you didn't try." He turned toward me slowly, searching my face. "Can you ever forgive me?" I looked out past the rooftops. The dome of the old courthouse glowed gold against the indigo sky. A city that had once made me feel small now looked like something I could hold in my hands. "You didn't fail me by doubting me," I said. "You failed me by measuring love with status. You loved us based on who followed your path. You respected only what fit your image." He didn't argue, didn't flinch. "I didn't come here tonight for closure," I added, "or for approval. I came because I stopped needing either." His eyes shone with something like grief. Not for what he'd done, but for the version of me he'd never cared to know. I stepped back toward the glass doors. "You can tell people your daughter owns the Solstice Grand now. That seems like something you'd enjoy saying at dinners." "Kesaira," he started, but I'd already turned away. The door closed gently behind me. I slipped away before the final toast. Let them clink glasses and pretend they knew me. Upstairs in my private office overlooking the bay, I let the quiet settle. The skyline shimmered a city I'd once been told I'd never belong to. Now it was mine in more ways than they'd ever know. My desk held a short stack of business cards, ones slipped to me by guests who once ignored me. Suddenly, they wanted meetings, partnerships, introductions. Laurel's fiancé had disappeared mid-reception. No explanation. Just vanished when the truth settled in. Diane retreated behind air-kissed diplomacy, apologizing for my independent streak with the same charm she used to dismiss me. I opened my checkbook, wrote a quiet donation to a women's startup fund under a pseudonym. The memo line read, "For the girl they once called a waitress." Then I leaned back in the leather chair I'd chosen a lifetime ago, the one no one gave me, the one I built. Below, the last of the party lights flickered off. The story they told about me was over. Now I would write my own. The runway shimmered in the early light as I stepped onto the jet. No entourage, no camera flashes, just the hush of a morning and the weightlessness that comes from leaving something behind. My phone buzzed once my father. A short message. "Let's talk again soon." I read it, then let it disappear. Some things don't need a response. Instead, I opened a new message. To Donovan. Let's move forward with the new resort project. One without gates, no velvet ropes, no dress codes, just belonging. He replied within seconds, already drafting the site plans. "We'll send options by end of day." I smiled. Outside the window, the city faded beneath the clouds. They had written me out of the family story a long time ago. All I did was stop asking for a paragraph. I became the publisher. And now, no more waiting for applause that would never come. No more shrinking to fit their narrative. They tried to lock me out. I became the architect of every room they'll never own.